What's up, guys? Alex here. I am with Janine Spendlove, the author of Inbrief, the Twilight Company kind of tie-in story. So thank you for taking the time to meet with me. I know you have a really busy schedule.
Well, this is super fun, so happy to do so.
So how did you kind of get pulled into the Star Wars universe and writing for this story? And what's it like to work with the story group? I'm very interested in kind of how the process is for an author.
Okay, well, that's kind of a very multi-part question. So to answer your last question first, it is great working with the story group. They were really fantastic. When I kind of asked what my left and right lateral limits were, they were very, hey, just write the story. You know, we sat down, we discussed the plot, what I was thinking of doing. They told me what they were kind of looking for, which was a backstory for Brand. Give a reason for her to give up bounty hunting and join the rebellion. Why would she do this? And so I pitched them what I wanted to do. They made a couple little, they said, oh, that's great, made a few little tweaks. I got the thumbs up, told me to write it. And I was very much like, well, do I have to use established worlds and characters? Can I come up with stuff? And they were like, go. It's a big sandbox, have fun in it. It was essentially what they did. So I did it, I wrote the story, sent it to them. And then apart from a few like, hey, let's tighten up the story here, oh, I'd like to see a little bit more there, it was no different than really any other editing experience I've had. I had to tweak a couple names because I gave one of my characters' nicknames was Ren. And and they're like, this character in this movie gonna kind of have this, and I was like, oh geez, yeah, okay, we'll come up with a different nickname for them. So it was very easy, change happy to glad, whatever, and it was great. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. As far as how I got involved with it, I talked about it a little bit in my StarWars.com interview. But it's a story I love to tell. I was at lunch with a friend of mine, John Jackson Miller, who wrote Rebel Dawn. Great writer. You guys should go read all his stuff. And he had been introduced to me by Michael A. Stackpole at a previous con, who's also a great writer. You should go read all his stuff. I read Rogue Squadron by Mike Stackpole and Aaron Alston, and kind of voraciously, I've reread those so many times. And John Jackson Miller and I were at breakfast at San Diego Comic-Con a couple years ago, I want to say 2 years ago, and we were walking back, and because he was getting ready to do a book signing for Rebel Dawn, and he introduced me to his editor. And she and I started talking, and I just kind of thought, now this is the moment, this is your moment. And I had an anthology in my bag that I had a story in, and I handed it to her, and I said, I want to write for you. I want to write for Star Wars. Here's a story that I wrote that's, all about a pilot. It's time travel. It's really cool. And after San Diego Comic-Con, I messaged her and told her thank you. It was great meeting her. And she came back with, here's my official Del Rey email address. Would you please send me another one, some more of your work? I'd be interested in seeing it. So I kind of went, had a little bit of a freak out, like, oh my gosh, what do I send her? So I sent her one of the military sci-fi stories that I'd written for a previous anthology called Dogs of War. It's a really good anthology, and sent it to her, and I didn't hear anything for like 6 months, and I was just like, whatever, I don't care. An editor at a big publisher, the editor in charge of Star Wars wanted to see something. I don't care if anything comes of it. I'm just happy that they even cared. Yeah. So about 6 months later, as I was getting ready to deploy and getting my own Marines, because I'm an active duty Marine, and we were getting ready to deploy, and I was the detachment officer in charge. And we were prepping for this deployment, and I get this email. I just got back from a flight, and I received this email, and I open it, and I'm just getting ready to walk down to my office, and it's, hey, Miss Spendlove, I'm the assistant to this editor, would you be interested in writing a short story for Star Wars? And I sat down right on the stairs where I was and just started crying. Like, it was just like this. I had been reading Star Wars since I was 15. I've been watching the movies for as long as I can remember. I've been a fan. And it was just this moment of complete, overwhelming happiness and joy and like dreams coming true. And then, once I kind of had a chance to process all this. Immediate fear came. Oh my gosh, this is Star Wars. I'm going to ruin Star Wars somehow.
That's actually a question that I wanted to ask
You know?
you specifically. I read that in your Star Wars interview, and I wanted to know if you, like, what kind of fears did you have? Were you afraid you were going to introduce a character? Or, like, what would that look like to you if you had... I don't, because you didn't come close to ruining Star Wars.
Oh,
But
I'm so glad you think so. I'm so glad you think so. You know, it was more just that I was going to introduce some element that felt not right for this universe, or that I was going to do something wrong with the characters, or I was going to do I don't know, any number of things. And I wasn't even dealing with like the big three. I didn't have Han, Luke, or Leia. You know, I didn't have Anakin or Obi-Wan or Padme. I didn't have Rey or Finn or whoever you want to decide is the third one, and that, you know, you can Poe, other people say, you know, Kylo, whatever, but I didn't have any of them. I didn't have Darth Vader. I had a bunch of characters from books, but part of that was these were characters that had been created by Alexander Freed, who wrote Battlefront, Twilight Company, which was the story was the prequel for, and you should totally read that. It's such a good book, and he's also doing the novelization for Rogue One, and he's the perfect guy for that. He's really going to nail that kind of war epic perfectly. And I was like, man, these are two characters he created. Oh, geez, you know, what if I screwed up? What if I don't write it the way that he'd intended them to be? But he gave some notes that were just basically like, hey, this is how, she's this way now, and just a couple like, I view her this way, and other than that, like, have fun, figure something out. And he, from what I can tell, seemed to like it. And I have yet to meet somebody who didn't like the story, so like you said, I don't think I ruined Star Wars, but then I feel like I've only just kind of put like maybe my elbow or my toe in the pool. So I would really like to dive in head first. I probably have a bigger panic, like, oh, I'm going to ruin Star Wars, but I want that opportunity. I would love that opportunity to have more panic about it.
So you already mentioned that you are a Marine.
Right.
Did the Lucasfilm Story Group kind of approach you to write this because of your background, or did that just work out? Because since it's a very military-involved story.
I don't know. They didn't tell me one way or the other, but it was very serendipitous. I was writing this story about a leader of a small group, and he was conducting Inbriefs with them, and it just was very serendipitous that as I was doing my own Inbriefs and preparing my own unit to deploy, here I was writing a story about not similar, but similar type themes and tropes kind of going on there. So it worked out very well.
You said that you've been reading Star Wars books since you were 15. Do you have any like favorite Legends novels from back in the day?
So I got asked this question on the Star Wars author panel, and my initial reaction was, I'm going to pass on this question because I'm on a panel with a bunch of but there are so many that I love. I mean, there's so much to love in Legends, and Legends is not gone. You can always read Legends. It's there to enjoy forever. But I have to say, the X-Wing books, particularly Aaron's Wraith Squadron books, just really just got me. Aaron Alston taught me how to write humor, but also tragedy, and by using it to just make this beautiful, absolutely beautiful story. And you go into Star Wars, I don't know, and you're a teenager and you're like, oh, I'm going to read a story about fights and battles and lightsabers, and yay, it's going to be awesome. And then you're reading about these two male characters that become like best friends, and one is helping the other heal, and then they get in a battle, and spoiler alert, but it's been like 20 years now, one of them dies, and I'm 17 years old, and I'm just sobbing as I'm reading this, like, all my feels. And it was just beautiful, and not even like in the moment before I was crying, I was laughing because he's cracking jokes in the writing as this character's dying. Like, it was just brilliant writing, and Aaron was so good at that. He was so good at making you feel everything and laugh. laugh and cry, and so I got to go with the X-Wing books, particularly the Wraith Squadron books.
Well, I'm right there with you. I love the X-Wing books, and everyone that watches my channel knows that I love stories about like normal people. So like I'm very excited for Rogue One, and so I loved all the pilots, and I loved Twilight Company. I loved Inbrief because they're about normal people. They're not Jedi. It's just people in the galaxy trying to do the right thing and save the galaxy. And so I really appreciated your story for that. I don't think I have any more questions, but what else have you written? What would you like to tell everyone else about? What have you written that you think other Star Wars fans would enjoy?
Well, it's a little bit of a divergence, but if you like fantasy, I did write a fantasy series called War of the Seasons. It's very Narnia plus, I don't want to say Hunger Games in that it's not dystopian, but it's all about a girl from our world who falls into this other world and has to save a dying race and goes kind of on the hero's journey. But that's just the first book. The second book is the fallout from her having saved this race and the consequences of everything and her decisions. And the third book, it's called War of the Seasons, is the big all-encompassing battle to save all the worlds, not just that one. So yeah, that was fun. And then if you're not really into fantasy, I'm in a ton of anthologies. Athena's Daughters 2. My brain is freezing. I'm currently working on we'll see if I can I'm only about a quarter of the way writing it, but a military sci-fi retelling of Pride and Prejudice. So that should be fun. We'll see if anybody wants to pick that up. And that's really all I got on my plate right now. I'm kind of busy with the Marine Corps, but, I write when I can.
And you're on Twitter. Where else can people find you?
So I'm all over social media, either as Janine Spendlove, Janine Spendlove, how it sounds, or Janine K. Spendlove, just depending on how many characters they let you have in the title. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, I think that's it. I probably have a MySpace, but I don't think I've touched it in about 8 years, like everyone else in the world. Yeah, so there you go. I've got a website, but I don't really do anything there either. So social media is the best way to find me. If you want to check out Inbrief, you can get it. If you get the trade paperback version of Twilight Company, Battlefront Twilight Company by Alexander Freed, it's at the back of it. If you want it for free, you can download the Del Rey 2016 sampler, Star Wars sampler. It's anywhere ebooks are sold, and it's free. Again, it's in there in its entirety, along with a lot of other short stories and snippets of other Star Wars novels. And if you want it in its original release form with all of the illustrations and whatnot, you can get it in Star Wars Insider 161. They do sell them on back order. It's like $10 through the website. So there you go.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with me. Everyone, check out Inbrief. Thank you all for watching, and may the Force be with you.